Alright, so there's a couple of things I want to say, okay?
Political hit squads in politics are not unusual. When I was the mayor of Cape Town, they accused me, now listen to this, it still boggles my mind to this day, of using council funds to spy on our coalition partners and members of my own party. Something more far-fetched you couldn't find.
Really? Something more far-fetched? How about how you were attacked for praising colonialism? Or the vile, repulsive, misogynistic language ANC members of parliament openly used to attack you personally when you were the Western Cape Premier? That wasn't more far-fetched? Or what about what the Democratic Alliance did to Renaldo?
If you compare every other case that has been raised around issues, we demand that people be suspended when we believe there's prima facie evidence of wrongdoing, either in a past job or whatever there is, as for example with Minister Nchaveni, and we are very wary of being mindful that political hit squads in politics are not unusual.
Every other case? Folks, prima facie evidence is evidence that appears to be enough to prove a fact unless other evidence contradicts it. The term comes from the Latin and means at first sight. The DA was correct to investigate Gouws and maybe even correct to suspend him, though it's debatable since the conduct harmed no one and did not occur while he was in Parliament. Heck, it didn't even occur while he was in the Democratic Alliance. But the Gouws case was not handled in the same fashion the federal chair asserts here is the case within the Democratic Alliance. No, we now know that the investigation resulted in a recommendation in Gouws' favor, and that decision was overridden. Upon seeing the selectively edited video which the Independent Online published, that clip could appear to be enough evidence of wrongdoing, unless other evidence contradicts it. A genuine investigation of the actual evidence, not the altered video, clearly demonstrates that while Renaldo Gouws used colorful, wildly unpopular profanity in a South African context, he did not attack anyone or any group, but rather used the occasion to make a point about the hypocrisy of speech policing in South Africa. 15 years later, the irony is that he was not only prescient, he was correct.
After Malusi's office was searched, the police had a discussion with Jordan, and Jordan said, as a courtesy, could I know what the prima facie evidence is, untested evidence is that you have against him, so that I can see whether this is a political hit squad or whether there is some real substantive stuff to which he has to answer. It was a fact that it had been bypassed. He suspended him, but then the member could prove that other people lived there and that they had done that even though the house was in his name. So then he was reinstated, obviously. But there was a prima facie case against him because in a house owned by him, the electricity meter had been bypassed.
Exactly. There was prima facie information to warrant investigation. But in the Gouws case, the actual evidence was ignored. Why? Well, we know why. Political cowardice. To be fair, political parties must pick their battles, particularly a minority party floundering, losing traction in successive elections, as the Democratic Alliance has done since its peak well over a decade ago.
And he says before he takes a decision to suspend, he's got to check whether this is a political hit squad or whether there's something genuine. And he then says, give me a briefing on the prima facie evidence that still has to be tested in court, that is untested now.
While folks are paying attention to the J.P. Smith case in the Mother City, Helen is implying that it may be a political hit, which it may very well be the case. But she never spoke up for Renaldo Gouws, or even called it what it was, a politically motivated hit. For those actually paying attention, this is yet another own goal that undermines the credibility of the Democratic Alliance as a political party. There will be those blue machine robots who claim that I hate the Democratic Alliance, but an honest, objective observer will note that my comments over time have largely been positive and even encouraged folks to consider voting for the party, as it was the only viable option for many years. I even projected an ANC-DA coalition after the May 29, 2024 results and clearly stated that it was the best of the bad outcomes for South Africans. But I'm not going to blow sunshine up anyone's skirt. The inconsistency of the DA's actions, its statements, and its poor public relations efforts cannot be ignored.
Alright, so now that I have your attention, tell me, how did it feel when you heard that? How did it make you feel as a black man to hear that, okay? Not even to talk about white people. How did you as a black man feel hearing that? Yes, you were enraged. You were upset. It shocked you, right? Okay. So now that we have the context for the vid, okay, let me explain something to you. I didn't mean anything I said there, but I wanted to evoke a response out of you so that you can understand what the next part of the vid's about.
So what exactly did Renaldo Gouws have to answer for? Hyperbole? Is the Democratic Alliance's stance that words are crimes? I get inciting violence. That's a crime anywhere. It's clearly a crime. But making an academic or political argument, is that speech the DA will not defend? White leftist South Africans' excuses about certain words being so harmful regardless of the context is poppycock. Few of those people are outraged when rural white South Africans are tortured with pliers, raped, brutally murdered, the assailant smearing "kill the Boer" on farmhouse walls in the victim's blood. When the Democratic Alliance does more than offer an occasional feeble press release about hatred directed against any South Africans, in particular minority South Africans, folks might be able to take them more seriously about an intentionally and maliciously edited 14-year-old video used in a clear political hit job, which the Democratic Alliance was too cowardly to stand against. I'm not a South African. I don't even own land or run businesses there. I'm not of South African origin, but that does not mean that I do not have a voice. I care about South Africa and South Africans. So many amazing people and places, languages, vistas, cultures, climates. South Africans deserve good governance, transparency, and political integrity. We all do. This video is not a pro-Renaldo Gouws video. It serves two purposes. An outside observer's view looking in, trying to point out to the Democratic Alliance the path that they are on is filled with hypocrisy, and voters are losing patience with them, something they seem completely oblivious to. And as a call for fairness and equal treatment, not caving to political forces. What say you, South Africa? Cheers.